everybody. Shall I start? Does it matter? Hi, everybody online.
She's the boss, it's back there. So.
Oh, where do you care,
You've
Supergirl?
been started for a while, go on.
I've been started for a while. True, this is actually how all my panels go. I ramble, I talk to everybody, and then I tell you stuff, and then I answer questions, and then some shows, but because there wasn't enough time on this, I actually improvise an episode of The X-Files live on stage, because I did stand-up comedy and improv comedy with Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery from Whose Line. You remember those guys? Yeah. I was in the same theater group with them for 10 years in Vancouver, where they're both from. And so in the 80s, there was a phenomena called the World's Fair, Expo 86 in Vancouver. Remember when we used to have World's Fairs? When everybody from the world would come and have a fair? Look, this was one in 1986, and Canada thought, oh, we're gonna show the best of Canadian talent. So they basically went across Canada, got all the funniest people, paid them thousands, tens, 30, I think everybody was making $35,000 a year, which was extraordinary in 86. And they all moved to Vancouver. And then when the expo ended, they said, oh, we like it here. And they all went into one theater group called the Vancouver Theater Sports League. And it was Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery and guys would know, oh, Gary Jones from Stargate, the guy who opens the gate, he was in that group. And we performed together. I did 10 shows a week for 4.5 years, solid, every week, 10 shows. And it was extraordinary, and learned my chops, and then started doing the bars of Northern Canada, some of the roughest mining towns with the drunkest of drunks. Oh boy, those were tough shows, but we improvised our way to, we had ability, me and another guy named Roman Danilo, he and I would do two-man improv in bars with drunk loggers and natural gas workers. We went up to mile 60 on the Alaska Highway. There's a place called the Roadkill Cafe that actually serves roadkill that truckers hit on their drive through the Alaska Highway. They'll bring it in and they'll butcher it and chop it up and serve it. So I had venison that was hit by a semi. That was delicious. And then, so in these bars, the bouncers would go, oh, you know, you like people shouting out suggestions and stuff, so we could take a break, which isn't quite the case. So we had developed a system where if somebody's really drunk and unruly and combative and ready to punch your face off, we would invite them on stage, and then one of us would improvise with the drunk guy while the other person left the stage to get the bouncer. So we both had the skill to perform with a completely inebriated, angry logger for 10 minutes, getting laughs, looking like it's part of the show, but then as soon as we're done, we say thank you very much, and we hand him to the bouncer, and he's thrown out. So it doesn't look awkward at all. And so when the X-Files happened, then they said, oh, Dean, we want you to do a convention in Fresno, California, and you get 45 minutes of stage time for Q&A. And I was alarmed because I hadn't watched the show. I was on it, but every Friday night I was performing on stage, so I actually hadn't seen a single episode of The X-Files yet at my first convention. So I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I'm sitting with Roman Danilo. He goes, well, why don't you just take all of 4 of those games that we can do with drunk people, just bring audience members up, string them all together as a narrative of The X-Files. You know, there's a mutated monster, there's a government cover-up, there's, you know, all of that stuff. And then you don't have to answer any questions. I went, oh, that's a great idea. Fantastic. So I go to Fresno and I'm doing my very first one of these. And often, as a thing you do in improv, is when you want an audience volunteer, you pick somebody who's either shy or not really looking at the stage or something, because that energy is actually more fun than if somebody's really into it. Then they'll like kind of be harder to work with. So there's this guy 5 rows down, and he's like staring down. I go, you sir, you come on stage. And his wife's going, no, you don't want this guy. I go, yeah, you. And he's like, he's not even moving, and he's like, no. And then I go, I have a wireless microphone because I can walk off the stage, and I walk off the stage because you, sir. And then I come down his row, 5th row, and he's got a seeing eye dog. He's absolutely and then I just go, not you, the guy in the row behind you. You've been ignoring me, sir. You come on up. And it was like, oh my God. That's all, because all the Fox executives were here to see me for the first time because I was from Vancouver. And so it was like, I basically saved the very first show. That would have been disaster. But there's, that's what you run into when you do improv and you bring. I was in Salt Lake City. Here's another one. And I do a scene where I have the audience write pieces of sentences on pieces of paper, right? They can write anything they want, and it's on, they write it up, and then I come and collect them, fold it up, so you don't know what anybody's written, and you can't pre-plan this. You put it in a basket on stage, and then I bring an audience member up and go, hey, you sir, come on up, you're gonna be playing Mulder. We're gonna, each one of these, we can read it out loud, justify what we just said, and it's a whole X-Files scene with, Langley and Mulder. Okay, great. Oh, Mulder, hey, it's me, Langley, blah, blah, blah. So I know you have some information about this case. What is it? And I hand him the paper. He opens it up, and he says literally into the microphone, blah, 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 blah. And I go, it doesn't say that. And I take it from him, and it says, I like little boys. And it gets a huge laugh, right? And then as we're getting this huge laugh, because it's like 800 people, he covers up the microphone, and he leans over to me in my ear, and because the rest of the audience can't hear him, he says, I'm illiterate. I can't read a word. I won't be able to read any of these. And then he just stands back. Hey, Mulder! Oh, my God. So then I'm covering for him, because I know, Mulder, I know you would have said, the cheese is in the fridge, right? You would have said that. And basically, and then in the middle of that, and this guy is in his 50s, he's very distinguished, he has a tie on, but somehow he's made it this far as an illiterate. Then he goes, you must be referring to my wooden leg. Chunk, chunk, chunk. So of all the people I could have brought up in Utah, I bring up the one-legged illiterate wearing a tie. Holy smokes. So so I have some performance experience on stage that's been alarming. I haven't thought about that story in years. Thank you, everyone. That's fun. Oh my gosh. So, how did we get there? That I perform. Oh yeah, that's normally what I do at these conventions. If I'm given more than 21 hours warning that I'm coming to a convention, which is basically what happened Wednesday night, I guess. Hey, yeah, can you drive 6 hours to a town way far away and just do a convention? Because Julian, thank you, I was going to say Justin, but Julian went to England, but he lives in Canada, and while he was in England, he didn't realize they changed the rules and you have to quarantine for 14 days. So after coming back from England, he went to Toronto, just picked up his passport, went to the airport, and they're going, yeah, you can't go to America. And they're like, why not? Well, you've been in Europe. It's like, what? Yeah, go home for 14 days, come back. It's like, but the convention's tomorrow. I got to get to the convention. No, didn't happen. So here I am. Hooray! So I should tell you. Oh wait, should we start with questions?
Any questions? Raise your hand. I'll give you the mic.
Okay, no questions.
Oh,
Fine.
we got one question.
Oh yeah.
It's a half a question.
No. Go ahead. I just thought there was pressing questions beforehand. Yeah.
So, hello.
Hi.
Hi. I have a quick question. So, longtime X-Files fan. When you guys got to do your final episode,
The final episode.
with the Lone Gunmen.
Yes, in the desert.
Was it something that you guys discussed, like that was how they were going to end it, or was it something that you were as surprised as the viewers when it came up?
Oh, being killed off, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. We got some warning. So I remember distinctly where I was biking on Venice Beach with my bicycle and my helmet and the earphone, and it rings, hello, and it's like a beautiful day and the sea and the breeze and everything, and it's Frank Spot, and it's, hey, Dean, how are you? Yeah, good. Hey, we're killing you off. Into the sand. No, it wasn't that bad. I was like, oh, yeah, oh, cool. I go, yeah, we're making it really cool. It's going to be really great. And I go, well, yeah, because, I was thinking about it. I'd rather that than the three of us just go off into the sunset with a stick and a hobo bag. That would be ridiculous. So it's either, I appreciated something dramatic. Bruce, on the other hand, who played, Byers, he was like, oh, we should have lived. I was like,
I would have been for a couple more seasons of Lone Gunmen.
Oh,
yeah, well, that's true. I mean, the ratings were great. Everybody loved it, but Fox executives and Chris Carter were fighting a lot at that point. That was a funny what was that story called? Greedy. Yeah, yes, greedy. Yeah, there was a lot of greed. It was silly because Fox, the X-Files still makes the money now, right? And they were like, oh yeah, no, we got a deal. Your deal is you get 25% of the sale to syndication when this thing goes to syndication. Big deal, 25%. That's going to be a huge amount when we sell the syndication for a cable network. And which cable network are we picking? Why, FX, our very own cable network, which we also control the finances of. So we bought the X-Files for $1. And here's your check for 25 cents. And they all just went, everybody just white-knuckled it. David was so angry, Chris Carter. So then all these lawsuits started going. And then they go, hey, the Lone Gunmen. Yeah, all these lawsuits that are going on? We like your show, but we got to put in Dark Skies or whatever else, I know. So that's being an actor, you are, prevalent to the winds of the, even, I heard from executives that they would go in and Rupert Murdoch would just sit there and every department would go on the whiteboard going, yeah, hey, this year television, the total budget for all the shows is $120 million. I go, can we make that $100 million? Oh yeah, we can. Yeah, just a line through there. Yeah, 20 million. And then you get a call. Yeah, you can't use that prop anymore, and you can't have that anymore. And they would just take $20 million out of TV production across the board because Rupert Murdoch just went, hey, I'm a businessman. Can you just lower that down? So it was like, wow, that's how television goes. And then we come here and celebrate it. See, the fight. So that's a good question. We weren't at all. And we came back. I came back as a digital.
That was cool.
Yeah, right?
That was awesome.
Yeah. And there was like a whole talk of like, hey, this could be like a thing where we're all trapped in this virtual prison that, even if you unplug it, it's somewhere else on another server. And you're like, yeah, that's kind of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, but that was weird to do because, again, I was living in Sydney, Australia. They flew me first class. I arrive in Vancouver. And then my call time's 4 a.m. I get picked up at the hotel 4 a.m. I'm in wardrobe to get the hair back and the glasses. And then by 6 a.m., I stand in a tiny room, no bigger than this, and it's just a camera and a sheet of glass and some lights. And I just say all my lines into the camera as if I'm on the phone. And then I'm done by 6:40. And it's like, thanks, Dean, you're done, you're wrapped. Nobody else is here at set yet. Like David and Jillian haven't come. Barbara Hershey was just getting some hair. Didn't have a reunion. They just took me back, and then I was back on the plane first class to Sydney, and it was like, oh, what the hell just happened? I just talked to a glass for 30 minutes.
It's probably been cheaper for them to ship the glass.
Well, that's what I said. I could have shot this thing in my apartment. Oh my God, I could have mailed this to you. Oh my gosh. Well, it was the same with the previous season where we're just in the country western bar as a hallucination, right? And they flew us out for that.
Oh, yeah.
And originally they were going to fly me so that I landed, they just drive me to set and then drive me back to the airport. Didn't get me a hotel. It was just going to be, you're in and out because you're jet lagged. And the planes, it seems that we can the plane to Sydney leaves every 24 hours. So if we shoot all night, then we just put you back on a plane. It was like, I got relatives in Vancouver. Can I just stay an extra day? Is that killing you? Okay, sure, if you're gonna be like that. I know. It was like, oh my gosh. Well, and they were gonna. I had a knee operation. I had a brand new knee, sports knee, Australian sports knee put in. There's a lovely healthcare system over there, and if you have private healthcare, you can just go to any doctor and go, yeah, I'd like this done. And they're like, okay. Oh, fantastic. So I just said, I'd like a new knee. Okay, how about February for you? Oh, that's perfect. And then we just put one in. It was like Did you need a new knee? Oh, yes, that's a great question. Yeah. I did need a new knee. That is true. I had blown all the cartilage out. I have my degree at the Simon Fraser University in Vancouver is very unusual. It's a multidisciplinary degree towards performance art. So not only did I train as a theater actor, I trained as a modern dancer and a visual artist and a musician. So I did all 4 departments simultaneously, which was very hard to do. And it's one of the only programs that does that. And we're trying to push out performance artists which I don't know if that's more lucrative than anything else. But in that modern dance, it did very experimental modern dance, which in the late 80s, early 90s, was a lot of people throwing their bodies and you're supposed to catch them. If you remember David Bowie's Yellow Canary tour, he had two dancers behind him, Sandra Locke and the other guy. They were from Montreal, and it was a lot of that. Women just would sort of curl up, jump in the air and spin, and then it was up to you to catch them safely and not drop them. And I didn't do that very well. And wrenched my knee at least 3 or 4 times, not catching dancers, and then, continued to jog and everything and just wore the knee right out till I had 7% meniscus on one side and 0 on the other side, bone on bone. And it was just like, yeah, they just said, oh yeah, you should have had that out a little while earlier. But now I got this plastic thing. It's great. So it's all good. Hooray.
Yay!
Yay. So yes, I have a degree, a multidisciplinary degree in modern dance, which I don't dance anymore, so don't ask. There'll be no dancing.
Tango?
Not even the tango. I didn't have to do the tango in that tango episode of the Lone Gunmen, if that's what you're referring to. They had a tango instructor, and I was really busy. I was actually on another project, so I was really struggling to make these classes. But then they said, Dean, you get stabbed. You get stabbed in this scene or whatever. It's like a dream sequence or something. So you don't have to dance. I go, oh, great, and I just left.
Wait, we gotta stab you first.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. No. I mean, just in the training part of it. So that was fun. And then, so dance. And then visual art. I was trained with Jeff Wall, who's a famous artist. He was our instructor, who is very. He does large kind of billboard photographs that refer to historic paintings that have sociological commentary on it. He's quite the thing. And so then, hey, here's my artwork right here in this book that's for sale at my table. And this book is, when I was living in Los Angeles, I was a tour guide of downtown LA. Downtown LA has one of the America's largest collections of historic vaudeville houses and movie palaces still functioning. So this is the tour that I give, starting at the United Artists Building. This is a lovely now Ace Hotel, but this was created when the United Artists were formed with Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and D.W. Griffith. And they formed a movie company, and they built this building. It's a spectacular, glorious Spanish revival that they've restored lovingly. And so I give basically, the tour that I give is written here, and then instead of taking photographs, I painted each one of these buildings, and it has a lot of the signage that's still downtown, and then, the Tower Theater. This is now an Apple store. And Apple went out of their way to restore this back to its 1926 fantastic. Charles Lee was the architect. His story is amazing. Oh my God. So he's 26 years old. He's an architect in Chicago. He decides he wants to make movie theaters. So as a kid, he goes to LA and he has a wild party, and he invites the Gumbiner family because they have a theater at 8th and Broadway. And he grabs Mr. Gumbiner by the lapels at the party. He says, I'm the architect. I'm the architect that's gonna make all your movie theaters. And he goes, okay, kid, I got this space at 8th and Broadway. It's too small for a movie theater because the projector back then had a fixed focus. So the projector had to be back on one side and the screen had to be on a fixed point on the other side. And the size of the lot was less than the space needed. So what he did, very cleverly, and it's hard to see here, but this marquee hangs out over the sidewalk, and then all of this wall hangs out over the marquee a little bit, and then this is an urn, and it's hollow. And so he could push the projectors back into the hollow so that it was actually hanging over the sidewalk, so that he had the focal length to throw it, and he didn't put a screen. All he did was paint the back wall white. So it was against the wall that they showed the movies with the projectors back then, which were arc lights bounced off a piece of limestone, which is why they call it being in the limelight. Yeah, fascinating, right? So then also he ran into trouble because 1926 sound was coming, and the speaker was 3 feet long. It's a huge magnetic speaker. So what he did in the back wall, and that hole is still there, he cut a hole and just let the speaker hang out in the back alley. So it actually, he, violated all sorts of zoning laws that they didn't have back then. And so this theater's still there, and now Apple has restored it back to its magnificence, including the whole ceiling's done in a mosaic, in a fresco. And if you are at 8th and Broadway, downtown Los Angeles, you can go see that now, and they won't force you to buy anything Apple. You can actually just go look at it, and they don't go, why are you here? And so, yeah, so all of that, and then of course, here's the Bradbury building. We know this from Blade Runner, yes? So this is a fascinating story too. So this building, they think, for the longest time, they didn't know who the architect was on the inside, because this guy worked for Mr. Summer Hunt, who had an architectural firm in the 1880s that basically did all the major places in downtown LA. So Mr. Bradbury, who was a mining magnate, made his money in silver mining, said, I want a building to my name. And he saw some of the work done by Mr. Hunt, wasn't really pleased, and as he's leaving the architectural firm, he taps this unknown architect on the shoulder, this kid, and goes, hey man, I want you to do the interior, just out of the blue. And the kid was like, what? And he consulted a Ouija board, called a planchette board back then. He consulted a Ouija board, and he said, should I take this commission? And the Ouija board said, you will be famous, but famous was upside down. And that was the fact that he wasn't famous till like 1980. When we found out that he was him because his grandson, who was a science film producer, had kept the little piece of paper that said, you will be famous upside down. And that's how he proved that his dad, or his, at that point, it was his grandfather, I guess. His grandfather was the architect of the interior part. And he based it off the third most famous novel in the turn of the century was called Looking Backwards. And it was a Rip Van Winkle story of a guy who wakes up in the year 2000 where America is a socialist utopia, where all the buildings are blazed with natural light and everything is open and there's an elevator on every side and every building has, and so he made it so that this is an all skylight coming through and it's all natural light, and even the floor has glass bricks so that in the basement you're still getting natural light coming down 4 stories. And this is still used today. There's architects and firms in here, and including the LAPD has their internal affairs office in here. So when the cops go here, it's called going to the oven, because you're gonna get a grilling. And so, that's the joke there. So, yeah, so this is the whole tour in a book, and I brought like 5 of them, and I don't want to drive back with them. So, hey, so come by the table later. So that's that story, and then stand up, and then what else was there? There was another tangent that I left hanging, didn't there? No, okay, great. So any questions? Any other questions of everything I said so far? Yes?
You painted.
Oh, yes. The streaming, they want to hear the question, even though I repeat it.
What medium are you working in with your paint?
This is mostly watercolor. Okay. So I work watercolor and pen and ink. Okay. So basically I do the washes in the color, and then the detail stuff I like doing just in fine ink. I do also oils. And a lot of pet portraits. That's a big thing in Australia. Did you know that? I was doing a ton of pet portraits in Australia because everybody likes their pets painted on their wall. I did not know that. So I had a thing of pet portraits, including Blog Molly Dog, who was the most famous Airedale in Australia, had, I think, 17,000 followers. And every day, she had this spectacular life of just going around Sydney and going to the beaches. So all these dogs, the dog running on a sunset beach, and just looking glorious. And then standing by cool graffiti in Newtown, looking like really gritty. And it was like, this dog had the best life ever. And people would like send gifts. And then it was a friend of mine. He was an improviser, Pete Lead, and his wife, and they had Blog Molly Dog. And then one year, they just go, oh yeah, we're gonna go on a trip around the world for 7 months. I think they took 8 months off. How do you do that? Australia, thank you. And they just visited everybody who followed Blog Molly Dog, and they stayed for free, and the police picked them up at an airport because they knew they were coming and took them to their hotel. And like, basically they connected with 16,000 people and coordinated a round the world trip and did it almost all for free. I know, right? And the dog stayed home. That was the other thing. The dog stayed at friends' places, didn't even go with them. Just like freeloading off the dog, are you?
Those poor people.
I know.
The dog was coming.
No, they didn't. They actually, everybody knew the dog wasn't coming. The dog, you could not travel in that, because the first flight was like 18 hours. They went to Argentina first, and then came up all through the Americas, then went over to Europe, came down through, I think, India too. The people were following this dog in India, and then came back through Thailand and Vietnam, and then down through Australia. It was like, what? And staying at friends, like, or not even friends, like blog mollied up random people that followed the dog. I know. I would like, wouldn't you have one follower that's a bit off? I don't know. One? No. So thank you for the question. Yes, that medium. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes.
Back to you, sir.
Making me run.
So yeah, I just have one. I have always been curious. Was at any point in time on the show, was that your hair or was that a wig?
No, that was always my hair.
Okay.
Up until season 10. So after the show ended, I cut it for a movie with Marina Sirtis, of all people, and so I was a psychologist in this movie called. It was called a bunch of things because every time they sold it to Lifetime or something, they rename it. So, Soul Survivor, maybe it's called Soul Survivor on Lifetime.
Well,
yes, I cut it. I actually cut it on stage as a comedy bit at the Improv in Hollywood.
Wow.
And so I had Rick Overton come, and he sat there with a pair of scissors, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to judge you if any joke I think is hackneyed or whatever. I'm going to cut off a piece of your hair." So, then I go, "Hey, everyone knows like guys are like dogs and girls are like cats," and they just come out, just clink like that, a big chunk, and like throw it down. And then I do like some other bits, and then I like do another hack bit, and then basically he chopped off all my hair, and then he put his hands down my pants and pulled up black hair. The curtains didn't match the drapes joke.
That's great hair, though.
Yeah, well, I had it since how long? I had it long in the 3rd grade. I never cut my hair. And then I cut it once in university for a part, and then it grew back. And then the first time the university stuff I kept, and I was going to donate it to the Cancer Society for people in chemo. They make hair wigs out of real hair. And they said, it has to be all combed in the same direction. And it was just a big blob. So they didn't want to go through and like try to carefully comb out blonde hair. So they just sent it back to me in a Ziploc bag. And yeah, just like, I don't know if I want it now. I don't know. What are you guys doing? So yeah, that was my hair, but the glasses were fake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at the first 3 episodes of the appearances of the Lone Gunmen, so like season 1, episode 13, EBE, and then you look the next 2-3 seasons after that, I'm wearing different glasses every time because the props guy, just like seconds before I went on to set, he'd go, you should have the glasses. And he just had a giant Ziploc bag of all these black glasses. And I just like grabbed a pair and threw it on. And then when it was done, I go, "Hey, thanks a lot." And just chucked them in. And then like thinking I'd never come back again, right? It was just a day player, just this one episode. And then he was like, "Oh, you're back. Do you remember what you were wearing?" I go, "No, black glasses." And they were like going through them all and like trying to match it. And it was like, "Oh, maybe it's these ones." But then I go and say, "Nah, it wasn't these ones," because they're reflecting, like I could see the light, so these aren't the same ones. So then we like shooting that one, and then another pair, that didn't look right. So then it was like every time, and then finally, like 4 years in, he goes, "You know what? I'm gonna keep these in a separate bag." That's thinking, props guy. Oh my gosh.
So you guys didn't know that it was going to be more than one episode?
No. We auditioned that first year. It was just gonna be a one-off. Like we were day players. You do the Commish, you do Street Justice, you do, all those things, Stargate, and you come in for one day, you say your lines, you get the hell out of there, and you're an actor in Vancouver. You get to live in the beautiful city of Vancouver, and there's like these shows come through, and you get enough to, pay the rent, and it's like, you never think, "Oh my gosh, one of these is gonna be a big hit, and I'm gonna be on it, and it's gonna go into my spin-off." Well, actually, funny you should ask. It's the beginning of the internet. So back in the day, there was a used group called Alt TV X Files. And I first got onto it using Unix code, A black screen with green letters going read news. And somebody showed me that at a party. It was like, hey, the Gunman, man. Oh my gosh. And then one person said, oh, this proves that the writers and the producers are in our news group and they're lurking because they made characters that completely reflect who we are as a group. And this is, we are now paying notice to you guys that we know you're here. And sure enough, it was true. Chris Carter and Frank, they were all really excited that this was a chance, because normally before the internet, you would write a TV show and then you call your mom going, what do you think? And she goes, the couch was red. And well, no, what about the show, And you weren't getting any feedback that you could work with. And so now that you had these fans going, well, that scene there and this character there, they were like, oh yeah, hey, that's really good feedback actually. So they would use that and they would lurk. And then they started taking lines from the news group for the Lone Gunmen to say. Yeah, so then, because there's an episode where I think I said to Mulder, hey Mulder, you want to grab some, you want to hop on the internet and we'll nitpick the scientific inaccuracies of Earth 2, right? Earth 2 was a terrible show where they fly to another planet and start another Earth. It was called Earth 2 and it was full of scientific inaccuracies. It was a completely cheese show that was on the same time as the X-Files, right? So, and then sure enough, that came straight out of Alt TV X-Files. So then the fans there went just ballistic, and then told all their friends, oh my God, we have the ear of the writers and producers of the X-Files. And sure enough, Chris Carter had a phone list that he would, like in around season 9, when he would write something, he would call some hardcore fans going, okay, if Mulder does this conflict with anything else in the canon? And they were like, no, you're good, except make sure you don't do that. Okay, thanks. And they were like,
how do you get that job?
Yeah, I know, right? By being obsessive and going to every convention and talking to Chris Carter a lot, that's how. And being on the news groups too, right? I think, after Alt TV X-Files, it went to a service called Prodigy, which was pre-AOL. And Prodigy basically hooked their entire company on marketing with the X-Files, so that if you signed to Prodigy, you got all this X-Files stuff, and it was like this kind of marketing deal. And so from there, the writers, everybody found that core group that they worked with and talked to.
Fandoms, basically.
Yeah, basically it's the beginning of what all TV shows do now. But it was the first one to do it, and we were the first to benefit from it, so they kept bringing us back as a way to flame up stuff on the news group, and it was like, oh, hey, how great is that? So yeah, so we thought we were day players till all of a sudden, years later, we got a spin-off. Like, what the hell? How does that happen?
The movie that you were in with Marino is currently called Spectres.
Oh yeah, Spectres I think was the original name, and then
That's what's on IMDb. So.
Oh yeah. So Spectres is correct. But it was Soul Survivor on Lifetime, and then in Europe it was called The Ghosts of Hate, maybe? Something stupid. Translated, it wasn't The Ghosts of Hate. That'd be dumb, but yeah, I think it was something weird like that. Sort of like in Switzerland, the X-Files was called Borders Beyond Reality. So it wasn't called the X-Files, because it didn't translate right. So there was certain countries it was called Borders Beyond Reality, and then everywhere else it was, like in Spain, it's Expediente X. Expediente X. So when I was in Barcelona shooting a movie with what the hell was that movie called? Another low-budget piece of crap that I was in, and it was Ricky Schroeder. That's the one. Ricky Schroeder and me, Barcelona.
I'll find it.
Yeah, let me know what that was called, because it was called 6 Things while I was working on it. And but while I was there, everybody's like pointing at me, yelling "Expediente X," and then I had to learn in Spanish. That's the X-Files in Spanish. And then there's certain voiceover actors that get jobs dubbing the show. So I met my guy in Italy, and I met my German counterpart, and I had to sign a petition because they, for the X-Files movie, they wanted a different voiceover guy than who did the TV series. And all the German fans were like, well, it's going to sound like a different guy. That's not Mulder. You got to get the Mulder voice. And so, yeah. And then in France, to make Mulder more sexy, apparently, yeah. So anytime he's working on a case or something, and even if a woman just walks behind him and he doesn't even like make eye contact, they would dub in, oh. So Mulder had a thing for, he just had a 360 radar for hot women. Oh, there's one behind me. Like, so funny. So, yeah. So, yeah, when you travel, you go watch X-Files in another country, you'll have quite a laugh. Absolutely. What's that one called?
That was Face of Terror.
Face of Terror is correct, though in the clapperboard in Barcelona, it actually said Runway Danger. Runway Danger. But yeah, it was then released as Face of Terror. But it was this really kind of shady production company that had a deal where Spain was matching the budget 100%. So if you came in with $1 million movie, Spain Film Commission would throw in another $1 million and you'd make it a $2 million movie. So what they did is said, yeah, this is $1 million movie, when in fact it was basically a $500,000 piece of crap, and then took the other $1 million from Spain and just took off with it. And then just said, oh, it's Runway Terror. No, it's Face of Terror. And then Ricky Schroeder just, chased me around Barcelona because I was a porn photographer, I think, and his sister was a model who died, and whatever. It was so terrible. I did terrible movies, and I will again. No, yeah, I know. Actually, I'm supposed to be in Ohio in 2 months doing a horror movie where me and my podcast co-host Phil Ernest play ourselves running a podcast in Ohio, and then we're caught up in a murder, and people are dying all around us as we do our podcast. So I don't know what that's going to be. But yeah, we've been doing a podcast now, 14 years, absolutely free, every Monday. It's called the Chill Pack Hollywood Hour. And it's all about celebrity deaths and what's going on in film news and school closings, whatever the hell we want to talk about. It's actually a production meeting on the air, so, because we're producing stuff, so basically we just talk to each other on Skype every week and then record it and then put it up and people listen to it. Or some people, who's listened to it here? You have? Oh, the Buster Keaton run, right? Yeah, we went really deep on Buster Keaton, and there's a whole, when you start being a tour guide for silent film houses, you find out there's a big silent film nerd community, and they still do screenings. So this one screening was in a part of Hollywood that you can't drive to. It's only a walk up, and it's been there since 1927. It's right by the Hollywood Bowl, and they put up a screen. And the University of Berkeley still teaches every generation of how to improvise on an organ to silent film, so that they still have the skill shares of people who can look at the what's going on the screen and then improvise musical accompaniment to it, which was a skill that everybody had basically. And they got the last guy who played at the Orpheum when he was 12. And so he was the first teacher at the University of Berkeley, and they got him in his 80s, and he basically taught for the last 7 years of his life. And then from that, they have now this ongoing live improvisational music to silent film class that you can take. Cool. Yes. Superwoman.
This is not about your film work, but how did the actual Chill Pack product come to be?
Oh, look at you. Chill Pack product. Yes, why it's called Chill Pack Hollywood Hour is I'm also an inventor. I invented a laptop cooling system, which basically was a gel bag that didn't create condensation. And it had a filter on the bottom, so none of the radiation would go from the laptop into your lap. And so it was actually a bit of engineering, but I'll tell you how I got that. My knee, my new knee, when it was the old knee, had an injury on it. And prior to that, we were invited by Apple for the launch of OS X, because it was an X. So Apple flew us up for this giant party, me, Tom, and Bruce. We were the only three, and it was like in a big hangar and they had fake gambling going on, and there's prizes, and they had us there, and I talked to the engineers, and they told me all the problems that are going to be coming with the laptop for the next 20 years as it gets smaller and faster, and what materials we're planning, and they have to plan out 20 years in advance. And they said the biggest problem is going to be heat slowing down the processing. The hotter and the faster we make these things, and the batteries that are going to be longer, is going to create so much heat that you're processing. So you're going to have this fight, heat against speed and performance. And then I said, oh, that's terrible. And then they said, oh, well, thanks for coming. Here's a laptop. And they gave each one of us a brand new Mac laptop. And sure enough, I'm watching this thing and it's getting hot, and I'm like watching a movie on it. But at the same time, I have a cold gel pack on my knee. So when this whole thing locks up, I just put it over on my knee to start doing something else, and then all of a sudden, the movie starts playing again. I went, hey, look at that. Direct application of cold to the bottom of the laptop makes it speed up and function better. So then I went, okay, but there's condensation. So then I worked with this company that does cold chain technology. This is getting something from one place to another without it varying 1 degree Fahrenheit in its transportation through all different planes, trucks, elevations. And they said there's this material we make that allows heat to transfer but no condensation to develop. And so I put all that together, called Chill Pack, won a silver medal at the International Inventors Expo in Geneva, Switzerland, then went on to sell it. Then this company said, we'll buy the patent from you, keep you on as a consultant, and then they just shelved the whole thing. And that was the end of that. And then they sold a couple other things that sort of cooled laptops that they may have already had, and I don't know if they were just buying it to put it on the shelf, or they couldn't figure out the engineering that I did, but that was the end of that. So we still call it the Chill Pack Hollywood Hour as a memory to a laptop cooling system I invented way back when, and now you can't have.
But do you have one?
Yeah, but
Do you have one of your own?
I do have, yeah, my fridge is still full of them, actually. I got like 6 of them that I...
Sell them at cons.
Sell them at cons. I did sell them at cons. I sold them at Comic-Con. I sold them all over the place. I was selling tons of them, but then I didn't have the patent anymore, so I couldn't make them anymore. So then I couldn't sell them anymore. So I only just call my podcast the product anymore. I know. Is that the saddest story? I just ended this thing on a bummer, didn't I? We were having so much fun. You brought up the Chill Pack thing. Way to go, Supergirl. What the hell?
That was just a bad question.
Yeah.
We have 20 minutes. We can cheer things up. Anyone got a question?
Things up. Go through my IMDb. What's another crap movie that I'll tell you all the stories about?
Okay. I was actually thinking that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Tell us about the monster and the peanut.
Oh! Monster the Peanut. Yes. This was actually a film from the film school in Los Angeles, the famous one that, all the big directors. It's not IFC. What's it called? There's a film school right on Western, and it's up there, and it's a 2-year program. And it's 2 years because the first year you are crew lackey for second-year student films, and the second-year student films are graduating, and they do it like a real film. So it's producing, they get full talent, and they get all sorts of people. So people audition, and then somehow I got a call out of nowhere going, hey, do you want to be in a student film from the film school? I go, yeah, sure. They're like, that's always the thing. And they go, okay, great, you're going to meet the director. And he goes, and basically, it's like this. I sit down at a coffee table, and then he just tells me how much he likes the X-Files. And then I go, great, and then we leave. And then I didn't ask a thing about Monster and the Peanut. I forgot to ask what the whole movie's about. But basically, it's a story of a guy who's obsessed with LA traffic because in his backstory, and he's gone into this hermit living in this warehouse thing, and his wife, and I played the lawyer who's trying to get money from the guy, and he went crazy because the daughter was sick and he couldn't get through traffic to the hospital in time, and so he went mad with grief. And so I'm the theoretical comic relief in an otherwise horribly tragic story. So yeah, that still brings the room down a lot, doesn't it?
How about Dead and Deader?
Oh, with me and Dean Cain?
Yep.
Oh.
John Billingsley?
Good Lord. These are crap movies. Oh my gosh. So I basically had one scene in that thing, and it was filmed Valentine's evening at a terrible mental asylum / hospital that closed down in Boyle Heights. in a bad part of town. So we had to go there and go in this leaky basement. And Dean Cain, hilarious fella, and he's questioning me on a dead body that's on the thing. And basically it's a zombie movie in a hospital, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's implied that I get murdered early on, but they don't see the murder, they just refer to it. But oddly, I got third billing on the DVD. Even though it's just like, for that little amount of scene, it's like, I have a couple lines and there's the body and I'm dead and I'm like, no other thing. But it says Dean Cain, whoever the female star is, and then me on the DVD. I'm like, I don't know if you should be putting me third billing for how little work I did on Dead and Deader. This was less than I did on any day playing on Street Justice or MacGyver. What else?
How about, well, the movie's Atlantis down, but I have to ask, there's somebody who's referred to in the billing, Doug Birch, is racist number 1.
Yeah.
Which implies there's a racist number 2.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's sort of funny, isn't it? So this was, So Atlantis Down was supposed to be the space shuttle that crashes somehow, and then everybody has a death that's kind of associated to their own paranoia or whatever's going on. So we're all in a space crew, and then basically we all die one by one in sequential order, though it's shot in Virginia Beach. So the only sort of sci-fi thing you get was a bit of a sand dune, and so basically we all died in the sand, one after another, and it was terrible. And it was directed by Max Bartoli. I am Max Bartoli, and I the director. And he was from Italy, and he had very poor English skills. So he would say, "Great, don't you do that? No, great." That was his direction. Like anything he said, "No, yeah." Oh, so then he brought in a whole crew that's all spoke Italian. Nobody spoke English, right? So. Okay, so we're doing a rehearsal of the scene, a real heavy scene. We're going to be doing it. And then all of a sudden I get a tap on the shoulder, and it's the makeup girl. "Yeah, we need you in the chair." I'm like, "We're in the middle of rehearsal." "No, in the chair." She's very quiet. So then I go, "Oh, okay," I get up. And then Max Bartoli, "What are you doing? Getting up in the thing with it? But you're a makeup girl." She just said, "No, get right. And then they start arguing. It was just like, oh my God, just was madness. The whole thing was crazy. And so, so I don't think you can even see that anywhere. Atlantis Down. Atlantis is the name of the space shuttle Atlantis. It's down somewhere, though they never show it crashing. And then, we're down in Virginia Beach having some cocktails. How do you do? And that was actually, you know who else is in that? Michael Rooker, of all things, before he's famous. So there was a time in Michael Rooker's career that he would just go do these indie things and just drive around in his SUV and go from town to town, somehow finding out where these indie crap things were doing. And he would just go, and so it was like, "Hey, we got Michael Rooker." How do you get that? And then he came in, he was like the father of somebody in one of the dream sequences. And he was like, "Oh, hey, Michael," we got pictures, and he talked. And then right after that, and he was a method actor, so he said, "Oh, I was doing this other low budget horror thing, and I got cut." I go, "How'd you get cut?" "Oh, I'm in a fight scene." "Yeah, but you're using like fake knives and stuff." "Yeah, most of them were fake." Oh my God. So then I talked to somebody who was working on Walking Dead. And in that first one where he is chained to the pole and he's like trying to yank, his arm went numb for 3 days. He was yanking so hard and like a method actor trying actually to get out of handcuffs from the pipe that he basically deadened all his nerves on his left arm for 3 whole days. So that's the kind of intensity that guy has. And it's like, oh, well, thank God you're doing big budget things where now they're probably protecting you more than doing horror movies where you're using your own knives, stabbing yourself, for crying out loud. Yeah. Michael Rooker, fantastic. He's coming to a con, isn't he? Isn't he coming to a fanboy thing? He goes to a lot of them. Ask him about his arm going numb for 3 days on Walking Dead. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, any other trips down more?
From 1995, Dangerous Indiscretion. Rated R.
Rated R?
Yes.
What else was it called?
I don't know. It had C. Thomas Howell.
Oh!
Malcolm McDowell.
Oh my God. Malcolm McDowell. Yeah, I didn't meet either one. I met C. Thomas Howell. I didn't meet Malcolm McDowell. So, okay. C. Thomas Howell is supposed to be in prison, and I'm the crazy cellmate. In fact, I think that's the picture of me on my trailer where it says crackhead. Because before the X-Files, because I had long hair, all my parts were drug dealer number one, crackhead, loser, whatever, right? So I was just playing these idiots. So the audition was you're supposed to be crazy, and you're in the cell, and you're annoying C. Thomas Howell, and you're supposed to, it says in there, hang a moon. You're supposed to pull your pants down and show my ass to C. Thomas Howell. So I go to the audition, and basically with my long hair, I start fake rapping, and I start just rocking back and forth my hair, and I go really close to the casting agent. I knew her sort of thing, but my hair was hitting her in the face and on camera, and then I was screaming like F you to everybody, including the producers and stuff like that. I just kind of went like crazy in the room, and they're like, yeah, okay, that'll be good. So then I find out later from the crew that they were very scared of me because I basically wasn't hanging out. Like, I got there late so that I didn't have lunch, so I didn't get to say, hi everybody, how are you? Instead, I just went right to my trailer, and because it was like, a physical big scene, I was like doing a lot of yoga and everything, kind of prepping for this thing, so I wasn't out chatting with everybody. So then when I get to set, and the director's the only person I know there, and C. Thomas Howell, I just meet, hey, how are you? Then I just start going crazy in my cell and screaming, and then, and then I pull my pants down and my shirt's hanging over, but I hang a moon, and like everybody's like, okay, good, okay, thank you. And I go, thanks everybody, and I leave, and they go, who the hell was that guy? That guy was like psycho. That was the freaky, kind of idiot. I'm like, what? Oh, that was required of the part. Why is everybody upset? But I only found out later that the crew was all frightened of me on that one with C. Thomas Howell. Dangerous Indiscretions. Is that what it was called? Probably.
Yeah.
There were such terrible names. These were all these movies coming out of Vancouver in the 90s that just had, for Lifetime, they were like, my favorite title, Mom, May I Sleep with Danger? Oh, that's a good one. With, I forget who the woman was that, but yeah, I know. Mom, May I Sleep with Danger? Oh, tonight on Lifetime. Oh, terrible. Yes?
Mask of Death.
Okay, so this story has been asked many times of me. Billy D. Williams and Lorenzo Lamas. Wow. Yeah. I'm drug dealer number one. I'm just drug dealer.
You're just dealer, yeah.
Yeah, dealer, right? So I'm supposed to be this badass dealer selling Lorenzo Lamas drugs. And in Vancouver, if you watch a lot of shows shot in Vancouver, there's one alley that they use over and over again. You see it all the time. It's right off of Hastings, and so we shoot in this alley. And I'm supposed to drive a 1978 Pontiac LTD that goes through boxes and steam, of course. There's steam in boxes because it looks cool backlit and all the boxes go flying. And then I'm supposed to pull up really close to the wall and then sell Lorenzo Lamas drugs through my window. Enjoy your drugs. And then I'm just supposed to put it in gear, floor it, peel out of there around the corner and go, right? That is what's written. That's what's gonna go, okay? So I get in there, into the car, and in order to hear my action cue, because I'm on the other end of the alley, they put a Teamster lying down on the bench seat with a walkie-talkie out of camera frame, but he's lying along the back of the car. And then I sit in this car, and they it's a wrecked kind of car, and it's got the stick shift on the steering column, but the needle's broken. So I can't tell when it's in drive or when it's in neutral or when it's in reverse, right? So I'm like, okay, and the Teamster goes, just count. I'm like, okay, 1, 2, okay. And I check it a little bit, right, drive, okay, good, yep. And so they go, action, okay, boom, smash through the boxes, great, access everywhere, boom, I pull up close to I slam on the brakes, I slide real close to the wall, and then I go, hey, yeah, enjoy your drugs. And then I've lost count on the column, so then I go, 1, 2, and then I floor it, and it's reversed. And I just go boom right into the dumpster. And the Teamster falls off the bench going, fuck you, what are you doing? And then I'm laughing hysterically, and the whole crew is out there just with their arms crossed going, you're such an idiot. And so we had to reset all the cardboard boxes, had to reset everything, had to like paint out the scratches that I put on the stupid car. And then the second time I was like, okay, count. Like I wasn't even thinking about my scene or any of my lines. I'm just like, count, 1, 2, and then I floor it again and I peel out of there on my second take. But that was embarrassing. I can't believe I have more. I don't think I worked that much.
Well, there's Radio Free Steve.
Oh.
Which isn't rated as badly as some of the others.
Oh, you're reading the ratings too on those? Yeah, I think I'm doing the ratings on them. They were all terrible. Radio Free Steve. Yeah, that was a short, if I'm not mistaken. And
1 hour, 22 minutes.
oh, not that short at all. Who else is in it?
Let's see, you have Ryan Janelle, Jessica Schwartz, Chris Sykes, you, Joy Goring,
Oh,
Amy
yeah.
Raymond, Johanna Stein, Dave Kendall.
Oh, yeah, Joanna. Oh, yeah. So Joanna Stein's my roommate. She's from Winnipeg, like I am, and we went to theater school together, and then she moved to LA, and then when I started doing stand-up, it was cheaper to fly out of LA than Vancouver, so then I said to her, she goes, there's this house I like, but I don't think I can afford it. And I said, well, I'll take the other bedroom, because I'll be flying through doing stand-up, so I wasn't really the roommate, I was just paying for a room to crash, so that I wasn't couch surfing while I'm in Los Angeles. And so, Radio Free Steve was a comedy that wasn't funny about, and it was 99, somewhere in the 90s, 98?
2000.
Oh, right at 2000, yeah. So
I
we
shot
filmed,
it in 98, 99.
Yeah. So we filmed at a swimming pool up in the Hollywood Hills, somebody's house, and I was playing a conspiracy theorist. Huh? Yeah. And then basically I'm at the party freaking everybody out because apparently in 1999 I was freaking all of Hollywood out because I was telling them what I knew about Y2K, about, this could all fail and it all could collapse, and because I, speak from a position of, I work with computers and I know what I'm talking about, I just telling people what I read in Wired magazine and shit, but they're like, you scared me! And they come back years later. I packed up my shit and moved to Arizona for 2 months while this happened because of you jerk. I'm like, sorry, I didn't. I was just telling you what I read in the magazine. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was Radio Free Steve. I don't think you could see that anywhere, actually. I don't think I've seen it.
I can take a look.
No.
There is a short called The Boy Scout. Maybe that's what you were thinking of.
Oh yeah, no, the Boy Scout is kind of fun because he's a Boy Scout superhero, but he's dressed in the shorts and stuff, but he's doing all these amazing things. And what's interesting about that is the bad guy is Shane Black, the author of Lethal Weapon and Faster Pussycat, Kill, and whatever. He's that guy. He just came in and worked because he was friends with the writer-director. Like, Shane Black, what are you doing here? This is a ridiculous, no-paying, fun short thing that we're doing. I know the guy. And he was like, yeah. And then that guy's a bummer because he goes, do you ever realize when you look at a library, there's all these great books you'll never read before you die? Like, what? Oh yeah, I got in my house, I got all these masterpieces that I'm just dying to read, but I know by the speed of my reading and how many years I have left to live, I'll never get to them all. And I just think about that every time I look at these books. I'm just going to die before I can read all these masterpieces. Like, holy shit, Shane. How do you get up in the morning with that kind of attitude? You just bum me out for the rest of the day. I'm like, oh my God. And I go, you really think about that in your house? All the time, he said. That's all what goes through his head. It's like, and he writes funny stuff too. I don't know, he doesn't. Anyway, I'm going to go back to my table, sell you stuff. And then come and see me.
I did have one more. We do have 4 minutes.
I do? Oh, right. That clock
that clock is fast.
Yeah. Okay, hit me with the last one.
Rice Girl.
Okay, that was genuine? That was not planned at all. Holy shit. Oh my God. Rice girl. Oh no. Oh no. So, and that has
Martin
Lithgow's,
Cove and
John Lithgow's kid in it.
Wow.
Yeah. He was in that as the lead, I think. And I don't think he ever went back to acting after that because this was such a terrible movie. Oh my God. So my agent calls me. He goes, I would never send you out for this, but you know, it's slow. Do you want to do this thing? I go, no. What is it? It's called Rice Girl. It's comedy. You know, I don't think they'll care what you say. And sure enough, I play a producer and basically I get to improvise all my lines because they wrote something so terrible. I go, oh, you know what'd be funnier? If I just say whatever. And sure enough, I just say whatever. And I'm ranting as a producer, like, get out of here, you do this. And the movie ends with me just walking down the hallway ranting to myself at the whole thing. But what made this horrible was Rice Girl herself was actually a porn star who was trying to get into legitimate. So her and her husband had saved up what little cash they had to do this movie about Asian racism, but in a comedic way. So when Ian Lithgow is eating with the chopsticks and he can't work the chopsticks, they actually play like all of these like cheesy tropes through the whole thing, and she thinks it's hilarious. And then I just like, I then get flown to Vegas for the screening of this thing. Okay, so it's a double bill screening at the Stratosphere, of all things, and the movie before it is kind of a personal exploration written and directed by Pauly Shore. That's kind of a reality comedy of him going to prison, and it's got like all these his celebrity friends doing cameos where they're selling oranges at the side of the road, and it's like this weird thing of his decline in showbiz, and it's like, it's not funny, it's sad, but he brought 300 of his friends from LA to Vegas to party. So the theater's packed, and then they go, okay, up next, Rice Girl. And the entire theater leaves, except for 4 of us and an older couple that left after the first 2 minutes. When they realize how bad this thing is, they leave. And then me and my friend, and then Rice Girl and her husband were sitting by ourselves in this giant theater in the Stratus. Oh my God, it was so pathetic. And it's just unfunny. And I don't think Mr. Young Lithgow went back to acting ever again. It was such a bad experience.
But they made a sequel.
You can watch it for free on Tubi. Yeah, oh boy. Let's all get the popcorn.
And there's a sequel. What's up? They made a sequel?
Oh, she may have. Did she?
It actually...
Well,
yeah.
Probably she realized it was such a terrible mockery that she realized she had to put some effort into it or not. Or go again. Yeah, just I think it's a redo, not so much a sequel. Just
okay, yeah, they might have like re-edited it, but
Yeah.
because you're listed
Oh, am I?
as Rice Girl gone Wildcat.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe I
yeah.
should see the edit on this. Maybe it's a whole nother movie that I don't know about. That seems also terrible. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that walk through memory lane of hell.
Thank you, Dean.
Fantastic.
Visit him at his table. Everyone give him a big round of
Yay,
applause.
thank you, everybody. Let's see you there.
This is John Glover, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Lionel Luther recommends it. Have some fun. Follow your fandom.